Wait, this is on what, YouTube?
And Facebook.
And Facebook.
We are live.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Tony Pellegrino, and it is September 21st, 2022. Thanks for joining us. I've got a special guest, Jack from R1CONCEPTS, a brake company, and we're here to talk about your favorite subject in mind, Jeeping. So we'll give everybody a second to get on here, but we've got a lot of information to talk about, cool things to show you, and a Jeep behind us that we're going to be able to talk about. As always, I welcome your questions and comments, so please just include as much information as you can so we can best answer your question. It's always nice to have somebody from the manufacturer here to answer your questions in addition to whatever I know.
All right.
So let's see, let's rip through some of the slides here and see what we got. So again, you're welcome to just comment, and Jeff will read those off. Anybody notable so far, Jeff?
Yeah, we have Sam Walker, Ari's on, Esther Parrott Newcomb's on.
Nice. Isn't it her birthday? Happy birthday. What's she doing watching on her birthday?
Tyler Johnson, Nana's on.
All right.
Laura Coda's on.
Nice.
Got a good audience. Nice.
Good. Yeah, it's
always
awesome.
good.
Nick Rapinich is on, whoever that is.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, yep, just comment and Jeff will read those off. And then today our featured product, of course, is R1. If you're not familiar with R1, they offer a whole range of brake pads, rotors, and then, you know, crazy high performance brake kits. So
Right.
we're going to go through a bunch of that stuff, and I'm just going to kind of let you start talking. I know this is one of your
Right.
hot new products, right?
Yeah, so this is a new product that we have. So these are stainless steel brake lines, are OEM replacements. So, you know, everybody likes to have upgraded stainless steel brake lines. You know, you get these stock rubberish looking things that kind of just deteriorate over time. You know, we make high quality stainless steel where it's more durable. Then obviously when you apply your foot on the brake, you know, you get more brake pedal feel on it. So, but this is a new line for you guys, and it's a line that we offer for Jeep, any other vehicle applications. We also have them in custom lines, so you can get them in custom lengths. And then also we're working on colors as well, as far as, you know, people that want different colors as far as the outside
the
Teflon
housing,
coat.
yeah.
So,
Cool.
but yeah, this is something new and something that, you know, we wanted to kind of showcase and debut here for all of everybody at home.
Nice,
So.
nice, awesome. Oh, Jeff's got a question.
No question, just VB Tom saying, love my R1 brakes, got them on all my vehicles.
Nice.
Nice.
Esther Parrott Newcomb says, thanks for the happy birthday, Tony. Date night with Tom watching GenRight.
Nice, as it should be.
There it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There are a couple of our ambassadors back there in Virginia
Okay.
Beach, so yeah, awesome. Cool. So, you know, I guess notable, right, regular braided lines might have AN fittings where these have, you know, like a stock style with a banjo on the end, right?
Right.
So makes it a little more plug and play.
Right, yeah, everything's pretty much OEM replacements. It's just, it's higher quality as far as the line itself, as far as the fittings. Just, you're gonna get a lot better than just kind of like the stockish looking.
Yeah, what you were saying is kind of spongy, so that pedal doesn't quite have the modulation you're looking for.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, that's
Okay.
new, again, a new application, so.
Yeah, that's good. You guys are adding on new stuff.
Right.
Let's see what else we had here. Oh, just a close-up of the lines themselves. So the different ends on them.
Yeah, and also too, we make them in-house. So if you guys need them right away, if you guys want to order them now, you can just call in to GenRight and we can get these done pretty quickly. So everything's, you know, made in-house, and like I said, you got custom lengths as well.
Cool. Cool. Oh, he's got a question.
Question from YouTube. Is there a certain size tire that you get to where you want to start considering upgrading to a big brake kit?
I would say once you get to a 37, you know, you're you're past kind of what the factory stuff was designed for, especially when you go to low range,
Right.
you know, where you're having to try and hold it.
Yeah.
You know, we pulled out a factory size rotor right here and you know, brake caliper.
Yeah, so I mean, you got a 35-inch wheel, and then you're gonna use this. I mean, that's kind of
That's not much.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anything usually bigger, especially if you're gonna go bigger in weight and anything, you always want to go to a bigger.
Yeah,
brake
and I don't
kit
know if you
setup.
can see this. This is, they talk about it in millimeters. I talk about it in inches. These are almost 14-inch diameter.
Yeah.
So
Versus a
it's,
stock.
you know, quite a bit bigger. And that's, you know, the bigger this gets, the more gripping and leverage you have, right?
Right.
So
Yeah,
big
and
rotor is important.
Yeah, and you got a lot more friction surface too, as well with a bigger caliper, 4-6 piston caliper. So you get that extra bite versus you're not going to get that off of an OEM.
Yeah, well, you and I were just looking at this OE. You know, they're single piston, single sided,
Yeah.
right? They're cost effective, low tech, right?
Yeah, versus you have something that's
Yeah.
probably going to be a little lighter as well, and
Right.
and you're going to get a lot more clamping force versus just something.
Yeah, and if you notice how low profile it is compared to that, this allows it to squish up inside the wheel, right, and get
Right.
that bigger rotor. So there's a lot of design behind
Right.
that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, Jeff's got another question.
I'm gazing at my GenRight rolling chassis in my man cave. Do I want to consider an aftermarket booster / master cylinder from James Roberts?
Okay, so this is all personal preference. So I'm going to go to the extreme. So when it comes to race car Terremoto, I run a full manual brake system. Now, what that means is you've got to like go to the gym a little bit, because when you need the brakes, you
Yeah.
stand on it, right? Now, the reason we do that is it allows better modulation when you're driving. And the brakes are more responsive. Sometimes when you go to an upgraded booster, the brakes can be overly sensitive, right? You can't slightly drag the brakes as you're going through the rocks to add a little bit of driveline tension. Instead, it's herky and jerky, and everything you hit, you're accidentally stepping on the brake too much. So I would suggest if you're going to do anything with the brakes, you do the upgrade. If you find you still don't have enough braking power, then I would mess with the master cylinder. But I wouldn't do that right off the bat. Part of what I wanted to get back to with the guy on the, what size tire do you get to before you need to upgrade?
Right.
What I wanted to talk about too is, sure, we could sell you a fancy, giant, big brake kit, but R1 offers upgraded pads and then upgraded rotors, so you guys can step into better braking, as they can afford it, basically.
Right. Yeah. It's basically, how much what you can afford, but also when you go to a bigger wheel, heavier, then you can get into the the upgraded two-piece rotor as far as a big brake kit. But I mean, all of our applications are OEM replacement rotors.
And
they
pads.
Come,
Yeah.
pads. They come slotted only, so you still get a good bite on most stock wheels or anything. If you're going to go out wheeling, we do have a Super Duty brake pad for everyday use, or we have like an off-roading toe pad where you can use it. You can use it pretty much anywhere daily, or you can just if you want to
Sure.
go out crawling somewhere.
And I think
big
that's what
running.
we put on our little 4-shock YJ, our budget build. So we got some rotors from you, because the old ones were trash, right? They were
Right.
thin, they were rusty. I'm like, hey, if we got to spend the money for new rotors, I think it was like another 20 or 50 bucks. It wasn't much.
Right.
And get the R1s and then throw some good pads on it. And now with 35-inch tires, it has more than enough braking power.
Right. Yeah. Then now you can get the stainless steel lines too.
There you go.
Then you can always add this to your package later. Then you have a somewhat of a stage 1 or stage 2 package.
Yep.
Before you can step into a big brake kit.
Really nice. What else you got?
Somebody from YouTube wants to know if you guys are going to show how to do a safety wire for a rotor.
Oh, we weren't prepared to talk about that today. We don't even have any that are drilled to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. With that we don't. But I mean, we could.
I was trying to
probably-
think if I had some around, because I know on Terremoto I had some like that, but I haven't seen those in a while. So I'll look and see if I can find them.
Explain what it is.
Yeah, yeah, we certainly can. Basically, a safety wire is where each of the bolts is drilled, and you run a wire in between them so they can't just start backing out by themselves. The reason why people like to do that on brakes in particular is because running something simple like red Loctite is not enough because of the extreme temperatures. Like everything will melt off. So some people really feel that the safety wire is the only way to go.
Right.
And a lot of the time, what they'll do is they'll do that on the inside so that that nut can't back off.
Right.
So yeah, and you definitely want these bolts tight. These are you guys are using a special like castle style nut on this, right?
Yes, yeah. So everything's special, and plus the main thing is everything's torqued to spec. So you have no problems or any issues when you get the rotors. They bolt right on, and you don't have to worry about the hats coming off because they're all torqued to spec.
Yeah.
You know, the only difference would be if you wanted to change out hats later on, or if you had an existing big brake kit where you need to change out the rotor rings, then we would give you the torque specs, and then just to make sure, you know, we'll get you the instructions on how to bolt them properly to the rotor ring.
Yeah, mentioning that, it's important that you hold
Right.
the bolt side and torque the nut side.
The nut side, yeah.
Right, that's a big mistake everybody makes. So if you ever are doing that, now I can tell you this, I'm running this same brake package on Terremoto that we raced at KOH, and let me tell you, that is the worst conditions, so violent and shaky and rough, and not a single one of those bolts got loose.
Yeah.
So I think they got it figured out pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, what else we got?
For a 17-inch wheel, 37-inch tire, what size caliper for daily use and weekend wheeling?
So this package right here will fit in a 17-inch wheel. This would be, if you put this on a 37-inch tire, this would be like driving a Ferrari. You'd stop on a dime. Just to give you an idea, we did a brake test when these first came out. And I put them on Shane's JK, which does have a brake booster, unlike Terremoto. And this brake kit with a 40-inch tire, the Jeep stopped in the same distance as a brand new Corvette. So I would say that's pretty darn good on a 40-inch tire.
Yeah, that's pretty darn good.
Now, that's not the new Corvette. That was the Corvette of a couple years ago. But
Yeah, like a C8 or something.
yeah, still pretty good.
All right, Kevin Kerwin, we got an R1 brake set up through GenRight as part of our rolling chassis. What is the best way to get part numbers for the consumable components such as rotors and brake pads?
They're on the
Yeah, they should
pads,
be
right?
Yeah, as far as on the big brake kits, they should be on the brake pads itself. If not, you can just call into GenRight. Because also with the pads, we have about 5 style brake pads. So we have a street pad, we have two types of off-roading pads, and then we have you know, a little less or a little more aggressive street, but little less than off-road. So we can accommodate different brake pads. But as far as if you feel like you want a different type of brake pad, then you can just give GenRight a call, and we can get you
And
the part
what am I
numbers.
running? Am I running like the most aggressive?
Yeah, I think you're running the off-roading pad.
Okay.
So that's
And I haven't even toasted a set of rotors,
Right.
so I think go the aggressive one and
Yeah.
call it. That's what's going to go away is the rotor.
Yeah, usually what you want to start at like an off-roading pad, or especially if you have a bigger wheel setup and you have a lot more horsepower behind the vehicle, versus if you have a pretty much stock application. When you do order them, you can order just a street pad. Start off there, and then if it's not too aggressive or you need something more aggressive, then you can always go up in pads. But usually for the rock crawler, pre-runner, we want to give you a pretty, a good pad setup, which is usually just like an off-road performance pad.
Okay.
All right, question from YouTube. Is there a parking brake option available for these pads or brake system?
Yes, yeah, there is.
There is?
Yeah. So we do have on the rear setup, we do have, you can still utilize your parking brake. On all of these are all OEM replacements, so you don't have to cut anything, or you don't have to, get to use a different style. We provide you with everything that you need as far as the rear brake mechanism. Again,
Even when you go to this level?
yeah, even if you go to this type of big brake kit, yeah, we do offer the rear, just depending if it's a pull or if it's got the electronic e-brake. Yeah, we do have them available.
Yeah, and then like on Jamie's or mine, we've got the line lock, a non-electric line lock, so you just step on it, turn that, and then you're good to go. So.
All right, our buddy Anthony Paquette. Looking to upgrade the factory brakes on my Ram, 2021 Ram 1500 DT new body style. What is your recommendation for brake pads? I'm planning for the slotted rotor package.
Yeah, that's a slotted only rotor. I mean, going with the Performance Tow Off-Road, as far as an OEM replacement, that's going to be the best pad, especially for that type of vehicle. It's pretty heavy in gross weight. But yeah, if you have the off-road performance pad tow, that's the best pad to go with.
Good. And I think we've got those listed on our website. Not for the Dodge, but for the different Jeeps. Yeah. So, and by the way, for those of you that are watching, we stock these brakes, this kit in blue, right? That's what we're stocking. This happens to be looks like a rear shock setup. But yeah, that's what we're doing. So we always have them in blue. You can custom order different colors.
Right.
But we've always got at least a set in blue.
Zach Guptill. When I ordered my set upgraded R1s, came out to $100 cheaper than AutoZone for basic brakes. They run good sales all the time.
There you go. There you go. Thanks, Zach.
And Mark Shipman wants to know your thoughts on Hydro Boost.
Most of the time, I avoid that, and here's why. Your steering pump is already working really hard with a bigger tire, and by adding additional stress to that, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier. You don't want your brakes too sensitive, or when you go to drive two-footed and apply just a little bit of pressure to load the driveline, you end up bouncing and getting too glitchy. You need to be super smooth through there. And this is one of those things that if you ever get a chance to ride with me, you will see that I am constantly two-foot driving. And it's more than just like going through the rocks. It's how you set up for the corners. There's a ton of stuff associated with that. And I know every single person that's ever ridden with me is absolutely amazed by what you can do and how that changes the chassis.
Nick Repinich just brought that up. Watch Tony's brake lights going uphill and obstacles like I just uploaded a video going up back door. Modulation is important.
Yes. Because it takes the slack out of the driveline. I can't even tell you how important that is, because it gives you instantaneous response when you want that throttle response.
And back to the Hydro Boost, I just like that, keeping two systems completely separate.
Yeah. Now you lose a belt. Right. And actually, that's the only reason that I run a full manual braking system in Terremoto, is because I don't want to be tied to anything. Even with the regular brake booster, you get one pump. If the motor dies, you got one. That's it. So we've been out there and stuck, and too many times where you need everything simple. Like when it's time to start diagnosing issues, you want it as simple as you can get it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, all right, what else you got?
Tom wants to know the difference between heavy-duty pads and off-road pads.
So the heavy-duty pads would be it's like a heavy semi-metallic. So it's more for like if you're going to be pre-ride, like if you're not always constantly, you're like more of like a highway driving type of
heavy duty in terms of like wears longer.
Yeah, it does wear longer. So it's kind of like, we also have like a fleet pad. So the off-road performance pad is more like if you're rock crawling, you're in and on where you need to apply the brake, abruptly. You're going to get that bite. Not saying you're not going to get that on the Super Duty pads. It's just for, if you're coming down a mountain, or if you're, you got good modulation on it. But, if you need something that that's very abrasive that you need to apply the brake when you're out on the trails or if you're at KOH. You know, that's the type of pad versus a Super Duty is more of like a fleet pad.
Okay, so
extended wear pad.
Let's talk about this then. Many brake companies talk about this in terms of a high temperature and a low temperature, right? The off-road's going to be a low temperature pad, right? Because when you're rock crawling, you're not really heating anything up, right? So versus, you know, on the highway, like hauling something, right? You know, so that's a little better description for our viewers.
How do you determine the diameter of brake line? Is smaller providing more pressure for stopping power? Please explain.
So I know what we use commonly is -3. Really where the brake pressure and volume comes is in the master cylinder and the size of the master cylinder. And then that's also dictated on the length of the pedal. So like when we do a full manual system, that's very critical, all those bores and the pedal length. When you have a brake booster, like in your standard Jeep, it's not as much of an issue because typically the factory master cylinder size is very close to what you need, and the brake booster makes up for any difference at all. So would you anything to add to that?
I mean, as far as like the stainless steel lines, I mean, they're pretty much the same.
ID?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same ID.
Yeah.
It's just that it looks, because it's a steel braided line versus you have all this rubber on the outside that looks like it's actually bigger, but typically when it's not. It's pretty much, you're gonna get enough pressure through that on pretty much both lines. It's just, this is, you know, more durable, and then also you can get them in different lengths, and then, you know, this can withstand higher temperature as far as, you know, the
fluid,
the brake fluid,
you know,
comes through.
So, and I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a spongy pedal, but when you're actually moving your foot and you don't feel any change in the braking power, then that's spongy in the system. I'll give you an example. In the brake pad combination that I use with R1, if you just push on the brake, as the brake, you do not change your pressure on the pedal, the vehicle will actually progressively start to stop faster versus you having to push the pedal. And that's a good brake system. That's what you want. So because the brakes are working as the pads come up to temperature, everything's biting. It's just perfect. So, and I know nobody ever talks about this stuff. So if you don't know what you're shopping for, you don't even know what to look for. You know. So that's part of why we're doing this today.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. Don Cars is doing the TJ to LJ stretch. For brake lines from the master cylinder to the caliper, do you recommend stock stainless steel or soft braided steel lines okay?
Well, okay, so like he's talking about, you know, the braided stainless lines are tougher and stiffer, but when you increase the length, like if you're talking about that whole way, that's a long way. I'd avoid doing that. In fact, if you ever have a chance to look at one of my vehicles closely, even down the control arm, I run a hard line and then short, like I think they're 9-inch braided stainless lines.
You run the same braided
everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah.
One or two.
Yeah. Yep.
Mark Lawrence, when building a tracer, do you recommend to remove the factory brake proportioning valve?
That's up to you. You do need some proportioning. Willwood sells and some other ones sell aftermarket proportioning valves. You know, when we do one of our fancy, you know, manual systems, we're changing the piston size for the front and rear. So that's how we're doing it right there at the pedal. But a proportioning valve is nice, and you wouldn't believe how little your rear brakes are actually doing. So, you know, I'd leave it in there for sure.
Nick would like you to discuss adjusting the front and rear modulation setup.
So Nick's my co-driver for when we race like Terremoto at KOH. So he's seen how I can set up the car, and when you hit the brakes and then it'll start to come around, you can get on the gas. Those are all characteristics of taking time to set up the brake system. Now, that also includes that you have a consistent load in your Jeep, right? Like you're not packed with camping gear, right?
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to completely change how the brakes need to be set up. Similar to how we do our springs, where the secondary is kicking in with the heavier load. But if you've got a pretty dedicated vehicle and you're not changing things dramatically, now obviously if you're loaded with camping gear, you're not going to be out there racing around and zipping through corners. You're probably going to end up on your lid.
Right.
So, but yeah, having that bias, ability to bias the front and rear. Really makes a difference. Now, sometimes that can be done if you have a certain style brake pedal. You can do that by moving what they call a bias bar, and that automatically, when you hit the pedal, it's setting that. And sometimes that's adjustable right from the driver's seat while you're driving. That's what Jordan has in his car. And when we talk about like one of our race cars, we actually have the ability to shut off the front or rear brakes. So that if you tear a line, if something happens, you just turn it off and you still have front or rear brakes. So, I can't even begin to tell you guys how many, we're out there wheeling so often that we're experiencing these things nonstop, rocks, sticks, the rear wheels just get blasted. The brake calipers are just completely sandblasted from the roost off the front tires. So we're constantly battling this stuff, and the last thing I want to do is stop and like work on something. Like, we'll deal with it later, just
Right.
shut it off and keep going.
Right.
So what else we got?
Off-topic question, guys?
Sure.
Tony, do you run the RCV hub gear in your worn hubs?
The RCV hub gear. Huh. Well, right now I'm actually running the Yukon hardcore hubs on there, which are the ones that fail to lock. So if something were to happen, it just stays locked. I have run the Warrens for a long time, and I think one time I broke the fuse inside. One time, but I was asking for it, so. What can I say? More questions or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys sell the full manual brake kit, 2017 JK Ruby?
So that's if you called in, I could get you pointed in the right direction. I don't know if Tommy Dykstra's on right now, but I got him some of that information. I know I provided that to like Rob out at Redlands. So it is possible. It requires some know-how and DIY on your end to make that all happen. But I can definitely get you started with the right sizes and stuff. So, but you got to build a system for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Would a heavy-duty brake pad work if you do as much on highway as you do off-road?
As far as pretty much, the thing is it may, again, going back to the Super Duty where it's got that extended wear versus an off-roading pad is gonna if you're gonna do long hauls on it, you may get a little less, or you're gonna get a little more wear out of it. Obviously, it's gonna wear.
So less life.
Yeah, you're gonna get
right.
less life on it, but you're still gonna get the braking power that you need. It's kind of like that. You got to sacrifice braking power for either like dust or just wear, right? So if you want something to extend wear, it's going to have a little less bite because obviously it works at a different temperature range. But for the most part, yeah, that's a pad you can pretty much overall use.
Now, how do the rotors play into that? Like when you go from like a OEM rotor to one of your rotors, is it a different quality material that also bites better or just lasts longer? What does that look like?
So as far as, you could use any of our brake pads on any type of rotor, if it's a high carbon rotor or if it's just a regular G3000 cast iron, which is pretty much off of the shelf from like AutoZone. If you use a high carbon rotor, obviously it can withstand higher temperatures. So the brake pads do work, slightly better as far as you get that extra temperature range versus, a performance pad's going to give you anything over 1200 degrees versus like a Super Duty pad may get you 800 degrees. So it just, it just depends on kind of what you're looking for. But as far as, rotors, they do definitely play into, the lifespan of the brake pad as well as the bite, depending on, your setup for brake pad and brake rotor choice.
Okay.
Question from Tim Reynolds on YouTube. Does wheel configuration determine what brake setup you can use? Example, setback, offset, etc., or are all 17-inch wheels the same?
So yeah, the offset's major. That's one thing. We provide you with a wheel template before, let's say if you go with the big brake kit, just to make sure that it's going to clear, if it's on the inner barrel, and then also you want the clearance on the face if it's, if it's on a higher offset versus a lower offset, or if you need to run a spacer. So we pretty much can accommodate all of that, but we make sure that we give you the wheel template first so you can measure out to see how much clearance or how much spacing you have. And then, we'll go ahead and get you the correct kit for it.
Yeah, and I know that all the wheels we sell would clear
Right.
these brakes, no problem. So, yep. What else you got?
We are currently caught up.
Okay, then we'll keep working on the slides.
Question?
Okay, so colors, right? We talked about, we normally stock the blue. We're showing red, but here's like a candy red. There's a white. I've seen billet. I've seen all kinds of stuff, right? So just so everybody knows that you can definitely order colors. And then obviously we've got Jamie's Jeep here to talk about, right? There's some red calipers. And I think we're ready to actually go over and talk about it. Oh, we have another question.
Another question?
We
Cool.
have a question from Keith Loing.
I don't know if you talked about it. Do you do cryo treating to the rotors? Do you guys mess with that?
We don't cryo treat rotors. I know a lot of companies do cryo treating. I've seen, as far as wear-wise, as far as corrosion, there's really no benefit that we see on our end for it. But all of our rotors, they do have either like a geomet coating, which helps with rust prevention.
Which is this.
Right,
This
which is
like
this.
flat silver
And then
looking color.
we have zinc plating, which is for like the OEM replacements. So the zinc does hold up pretty good to rust. It's got hundreds of hours of salt testing. So let's say if you're on the East Coast and you get a lot of salt, you get a lot of snow up over there. So all of our rotors, they do come with a treatment, so it can kind of prevent that rust. Where cryo treated, they say it's a little harder of steel, but yeah, it's just kind of, we go with a high carbon alloy steel, so it's got high quality, versus a rotor that's pretty much like a G3000 cast iron, and they kind of harden it. I mean, we want to give you the best rotor quality, that we carry. So going with a high carbon alloy rotor is pretty much the best way to go.
So you don't need.
Yeah, you don't really need a cryo treated rotor.
No, I can tell everybody, I've actually seen my rotors fully glowing, like to the point where we thought they were on fire. And when things cooled off,
Right.
like looked at the caliper, everything's fine. I'm like, okay, whatever. Still running them, same thing. So, yeah. All right, let's. We want to flip around and look at Jamie's up close. Like I said, this setup right here is for my Aftershock JL,
Right.
so I can't wait to get that put on. We talked about doing it today, but there
Right.
just isn't enough time. We're already,
You
more
can probably
than
do it on
halfway
another
through.
tech talk somewhere or
We
something.
we can film it and do that.
Yeah.
So let's spin around, James, and look at the Jeep up close.
Grab some.
This. All right. Here, why don't you get on this side and talk about all the cool stuff?
So yeah, this is going to be our 6-piston caliper. It's a 356 millimeter rotor. It's a 2-piece rotor. So again, you can color combination as far as what GenRight colors have. They have the blue caliper. I believe it's white
Black
logo
hat.
or black hat with
Yep.
a black hat, but
Yep.
you can pretty much mix and match any color you want for anybody out there that wants a custom color. just get with the GenRight crew and they can get you set up. We also do accommodate different types of axles. So if you have like a 50, 60, 70,
80,
80.
yeah, whatever
So
you got.
we can accommodate different axles. If there's not an axle that you see, then it would be obviously a custom application, but we can always look into it and see, if the somebody's local that may want to bring in their Jeep, we can probably just take some measurements off of it, but we can pretty much accommodate, then obviously the stock axles as well. We can accommodate pretty much all of what GenRight carries as far as their axles. Again, stainless steel lines you have here in the back, very high quality. You also get the mounting brackets with these, and you get all the
Yeah,
hardware.
we didn't even show those. Let me grab one of those. Because it's a nice piece, how this adapts, because it's that radial style mount.
Yeah, so everything's all machined properly. It's got part numbers here. So as well as the rotors, everything's labeled with the part numbers. So when you get the instructions, it's pretty easy to bolt on. You kind of know where right's right and left is on the brackets. I mean, these are very heavy duty brackets.
To adapt to the factory style knuckle.
And then we also have the bolts too as well. So I mean, we provide you with everything you need to replace in your stock setup. So we can always go with just a slotted style rotor, just because it's going to give you the best bite. It's going to it also does clean off the brake pad. Sometimes you get a little brake pad dust. Especially if you're out on the trails, you get a bunch of other stuff too. But
yeah, mud, water, all kinds of stuff.
But yeah, we tend to go with this is the best setup for any Jeep application. That we've tested, and Tony's tested on many of his Jeeps, and so this is going to be the best setup that we have.
Yeah, we were just looking at Jordan's race car with the same setup.
Right.
So.
But yeah, as far as this is the front, so the rear is usually going to be a 4-piston rear, and same width or it's the same size as the 356 millimeter. So that's the option. Fit 17-inch wheel. No problem with if you go with 18s or if you go with a different type of wheel setup. But this typically will fit 17-inch minimum. So.
Yeah. More questions?
Yeah, Tony, what is on Aftershock now? OEM or upgraded pads and rotors?
Right now, it's the standard brakes that would come on Curry axles, which I believe are like off a Dodge 1500 pickup truck. So this will be significantly better braking.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
From YouTube, Rick Turner, kind of related. I'm only seeing the Curry 70s on your site. I think I only need the 60s for my TJ Future LJK. Is there much cost difference? Still learning which brakes I want to go with.
Yeah, the Curry had a shortage of the 60 center sections, and when we spec the 60 center section, it's called the VXR 60, and we also put in the Super 60 ring and pinion. So that's an oversized Dana Spicer ring and pinion. Both the ring and pinion and the center sections that were in short supply. So we switched everything right now to over to 70, and I think it's a $700 difference. It's not much, and you're getting a full 10 5/8 ring gear and a giant pinion. So many more teeth in contact. Even though Jamie's running the VXR 60 on here with the V8. Right now, what's available is the 70, so that's why you see it over there. Good question.
We are all caught up.
All right, good stuff. All right, anything else you can think to talk? I really like the lightweight hat, versus the all cast rotor.
Right.
Why add more weight than you have to? This will certainly be lighter than what I've currently got on Aftershock.
Right, and
which would be nice.
Yeah, and it's obviously much bigger as well, right? Which we all want.
I mean, it's got to be like an inch or two bigger. It's quite a
Right.
bit bigger.
Yeah, and we all, as far as this is a 2-piece rotor, we do offer, if anybody wanted a floating rotor, again, that would be a custom. You can ask that, when you decide to place an order, but we do offer a floating rotor as well.
Which is cool, but it's significantly more bucks,
Yeah.
right? You said it's like $1,000 for all 4.
Yeah, just
So,
depending on size.
Just that is a cool setup, and I didn't even know they offered that, or I would have got it myself.
So the floating rotor is more expensive than the two-piece?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was
It's still 2-piece. It just floats
Yeah.
on the bolts. So
That's
Yeah,
actually
just-
a question. 2020 JLUR advantage of floating versus fixed.
So the floating does, it expands and contracts. So it does dissipate heat. From what we've seen from that type of rotor versus like a fixed 2-piece, as far as performance-wise, I mean, just besides the heat, you get a little, you get better cooling off of, let's say, a floating rotor. But I mean, as far as the performance-wise, they're pretty much going to be about the same.
Similar,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're going to be very similar, unless if you're running like, if you're running brake ducts, if you're trying to channel out the air, if you do a lot of pre-running, But as far as our brake system goes, I mean, it does just by the cooling effects that we have for the inner vane of the rotor. I mean, it's going to keep it fairly cool.
yeah, let's talk about that for a second. The vanes are directional, so they're actually sloped this way. So as the wheel rolls, and what happens is it sucks the air from down here by the hub up through and out. What that does is it helps to make sure that no heat from the brakes are transferring into the hub. And they put a lot of thought into this. There's some real cool technology happening here.
Right.
And those are all things that you get with the upgraded brakes. So,
Are the rotors right and left specific?
yeah, right and left specific.
Yeah, all of the part numbers come on the rotor, so you know which side is right, which side is left. So you'll be able to figure, you can see which side is which way the vane's going to be directional.
Yeah, and then I was going to mention too, you see the brake bleeder right here. Well, there's actually one on this side too.
Right.
So you bleed both banks of pistons.
Right.
Yeah. So, more questions, Jeff?
We are caught up.
At the bottom, they're connected. So you only bleed, all air rises to the top.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, like we talked about, there's different brake pad compounds that are possible. Obviously, that either wears the rotor more or, whatever that looks like, right? Depending on how much braking power you need.
Right.
Jamie, have you felt like you needed more brake power than this?
No,
No, you
Pretty good.
felt pretty good.
I mean the first ride I took Jeff on, we were hauling butt down the street. I was all excited, and it locked up the 40s on the street.
On the street, so that's pretty good.
If you're locking up 40s on the
yeah.
street, you know that's
pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody can lock up stock brakes on 40, I mean, that's I don't think you're going to do that. You're going to probably just, yeah.
That was like the second drive I took it.
Yeah, that's cool. So the brakes weren't even bedded yet. Yeah, that's cool.
And then-
Yeah.
Ari would like to know what color calipers went on the JLU ESX that we're building.
That's a good question. If they just came out of stock, they were blue, which would go with his whole scheme. But I haven't specifically looked. I don't even think there's wheels on it. Maybe Keith could go look. Yeah, Keith's gonna go look for us.
Run, Keith.
Yeah. What else we got? We got a few more minutes if you guys want to ask some more questions. So, you got the man here. We've had a lot of. I mean, we've been running these for what, 5 years now?
Yeah. You've tested them on pretty much street applications, OEM axles to probably the biggest axles that you guys have. And I mean, if it's on your race car, it's got to be good stuff.
Good stuff.
As far as braking
I've
performance.
had that exact setup on here since we built it. Like, what, almost
2 years ago,
Yeah.
2 or 3 years
same
ago.
pads,
Same everything,
rotor,
yeah.
Haven't changed a thing.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, I think the only reason I changed pads on Terremoto was you guys came out with a more aggressive compound for me to
Right.
try, but otherwise they were fine. It wasn't like they were worn out. so.
Right. Yeah, that's where the different pad combinations, where over time, if you feel like you need a little more aggressive pad, we can accommodate that. Especially like with the rotors too, going with the bigger rotor, you get more thickness as well. So obviously, these are going to last you a lot longer than just an OEM.
Yeah, they're beefy.
Yeah.
They're beefy.
We have an update for R.
They're blue. They're blue, yeah.
Blue calipers.
Nice. Nice.
Matches wheels really
His
nice.
wheels are blue, yeah. So that's cool. That's cool. And James, I think you left the factory bias, right? Like,
Yeah, I like the factory, like brake booster.
yeah, and bias in there.
Yeah.
Okay. And I've driven it before, and it seems like it's a good setup, you know, as far as being able to pitch it and stuff.
Fairly mod. You know,
Yeah.
It's not.
And I know we left that in Kelly's Silver Surfer, of which I've driven fast, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I've I got the Tony Pellegrino experience at Moab.
Oh, that's
So
right.
yeah, I can definitely.
We were racing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we were racing other Jeeps out. We're out there out in the trails, but that was my first time that I was out there, and man, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. But I mean, as far as brakes wise, I mean brakes handled great as a passenger.
That's
So I
right,
can
I forgot
imagine as a
about that.
driver when you're out there two pedaling, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you got way enough brake power that you need.
Yeah. Yeah. What else we got, Jeff?
We are currently caught up.
Wow.
All
Okay.
right.
Well, we'll give everybody a couple more minutes before we wrap it up. But meantime, I was going to mention, we're headed out to Trail Hero next. Are you guys going to go out there too?
I believe so. I think
Okay.
so. Yeah. I can.
So we've got a bunch of our GenRight Jeeps that are going. A bunch of our staff is going out there. It's a great chance for you guys to either meet some of the salespeople and other GenRight staff that you guys have been working with. Come talk to me personally. We're going to be giving rides in the Jeep so you can actually feel how the suspension works or the brakes work, and really be hands-on like this and asking questions. So. We invite you to join us out there. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're there the whole week. I think the 1st through the 8th. So, or the 3rd through the 8th. Yeah. So, and what else beyond that? Otherwise, for those of you that are following us, or a customer or just a follower, make sure that you're turning on your notifications for Facebook and YouTube, so that when we do these videos, you're getting the notification that we've got something new coming out.
Yeah, and with all these events coming up, we're going to be periodically just going live on a whim. So
That's right.
Definitely
That's right.
have the notification.
Yeah, and our next live will be from, no, not the next one. It's the one after that. We'll be live from Trail Hero. So we'll be giving you an update right from there. But we do have our turkey run out at the Hammers coming up, and we have our Christmas crawl, which is what we do here in Simi Valley, where we decorate the Jeeps and go around on what?
Kelly would like you to know that Silver Surfer is fresh and ready.
Nice. That's what I wanted to hear. He melted some plug, so I think he got it replaced, and now it's running good. Excellent. That's good.
Can you turn those rotors?
Yeah.
If they get out of whatever, if you want to clean them up when you put new pads on?
Yeah, the question was if something got caught in here, could you turn them? And the answer was yes.
Yeah. As long as there's enough thickness left in the rotor, then you should be fine. So.
Yeah.
I actually brought that up because a lot of people think a slotted rotor or a drilled rotor can't be turned. And you can. That's the
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
you can.
And actually talk about this slot. It's not a normal slot.
No, so usually with other manufacturers, you have kind of like a rounded slot. Ours it's a diamond slot. So I mean, if you kind of go like that, it's actually in depth. You're actually going to get a good brake pad bite versus other manufacturers. And plus, they have a short slot, which doesn't go the full face. Ours pretty much goes full face of the rotor. So just to make sure that you get the maximum bite from the pad transfer to the rotor.
Yeah.
like they're longer.
Yeah, they're long.
They're
too.
long.
Much longer. So
Yeah, and I like the way that they taper out so you don't get any stress risers built into the rotor, which is also good when you're talking about a lot of heat. And I really like the fact that, especially off-road, that it's cleaning out the dirt and sand and water and whatever
Right.
that we're getting on the brakes all the time. Oh, it looks like Jeff's got another one.
We do have a question from Mark Shainman. Is there major weight savings? 2004 Super Duty axles on an LJ. Stock is super heavy. Anything lighter for the Super Duty setup?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be
A lot lighter because
lot
the
lighter,
factory's
yeah.
cast iron. You
Yeah.
know, those are big
Yeah,
calipers.
yeah, those are huge calipers.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can definitely, we just have to look to see if we have the application for it. But I mean, yeah,
I think so. I think
we
that's a
have
lot
it.
of what the Rockstar guys are running.
Yeah.
That they just have the junkyard axles. Yeah. So, but by just going to the aluminum hat, you'd be amazed how much weight, and then talk about an aluminum caliper,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah, you're gonna get weight savings, and then like I said, you're gonna get a bigger caliper, you know, more clamping force, and you get a bigger rotor, more friction surface to get you, you know, better braking power.
yep. Yeah.
Tony, from James Roberts, can you give me a ballpark estimate of hours it would take a qualified tech to plumb in a brand new rolling chassis with the R1 setup? Looking for a way to ballpark an expectation.
Well, whether it's R1 or the factory, the plumbing time will be the same. You know, it's just a caliper that you got to bleed, so it's not that big of a deal. And by the way, you know, the only thing holding this rotor on is the caliper, right? It just slides on, and then once you bolt the wheel on, that's what's actually holding it. So when the two bolts and the whole thing comes off, so it's fairly simple. The question would be, how do you want to plumb it? You know, what we do is we run all stainless lines, and everything is aircraft, what they call AN fittings. That's a little bit different than most mechanics would plumb a brake setup. They would try and use the existing hard lines, and then, you know, a lot of the time they'll just have a long braided line down to the caliper. We don't do that because they tend to get caught with sticks and, you know, shrubbery and other stuff and get ripped off. We keep everything tight and hidden. You know, if Jamie's behind another guy that's throwing, you know, debris, you know, because he's trying to get up a hill, it's not going to damage any of that stuff. So the other guy would probably be me.
Looks like you're in third.
I thought it'd be Jeff.
I saw Jeff signaling that Jeff was in front of Jamie. That's pretty funny.
Tony, well, Tech Talks was wondering what brakes would be good for East Coast and its mud, drilled, slotted, etc.
Yeah, so we were just talking about that.
Right.
You know, why don't you chime in on, you know, the whole drilled and slotted? You know, I mean, it seems like we've kind of been going this way, right?
Yeah. So I mean, for me, slotted only is going to give you the best stopping power, just because you got a full face, so you got enough brake pad to bite on it versus like a drilled and slotted rotor. Drilled and slotted, you get ventilation through the rotor, so I mean you do get air. It does give you better cooling, but it's going to give you less bite.
Yeah, you're actually breaking up the surface, right?
Right.
So the pad has less to grip on.
Right. And then I mean, all of our drilled and slotted rotors, if you decide to choose to go with the drilled holes, they're chamfered, which is a lot of our competitors will run like just one bit straight through, which has more chances of it cracking versus, you know, pretty much anything that you're going to drill through something, it's going to eventually crack. But we just chamfer our holes, use 2 bits, just to give you the less chances of it cracking.
Yeah.
But we also use smaller bits, so it's a smaller hole. So you get some ventilation, but again, the slotted only is going to be the best way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Any ETA on Jeep LJ Sport rotors and calipers or Rubicon rotors and calipers?
From R1.
Yeah, as far as what we have pretty much both in stock, just depending on what your setup's going to be. You know, if you're going to be, I'm not sure if there's a lot of your customers will go to a mid-sized big brake kit or go off of
That's a good question. It sounds like this customer would like to just upgrade the rotors and pads. I don't know that we have that particular setup listed on our website. But
I think because I think the JKU has a heavy duty, which is I think a bigger rotor, but there's no plumbing or you don't have to switch anything out. You just basically just bolt in a bigger rotor and it'll automatically go in. I think the calipers, we don't sell caliper brackets, but I think you can go to a bigger caliper, but we can accommodate pretty much the rotor and the brake pads that you need if you're looking for you know, a bigger OEM setup. You know, for that type of vehicle.
is that the kind of thing they can call in direct to you guys and get a little tech help on?
Yeah, you can either give us a call, you know, unless if you guys have
through us.
Yeah, if you guys have an application for it, or if you have somebody that's looking for like a heavy duty setup for just a standard setup, JK. But yeah, I mean, either way, we can accommodate you that way.
Okay, sounds good. Call in and talk to some of our guys about that. What else you got?
We are officially caught up.
Wow, and how are we doing on time? I don't even know what time it is.
To see about
Right there. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes. We'll give you a last chance to get your question in. Otherwise, you know, I'm hoping to see you guys out at one of the next few events we've got left through the end of the year here. And man, we've been just cranking out parts. We've got good inventory and everything. I saw we've recently posted on social media, you know, like our warehouse pictures just stacked. The guys in production are just cranking parts out. So we're really doing good, and I'd be surprised if we didn't have anything that you wanted. I think we're still doing pretty good on King 2.0, 14 shocks and 12s. So, you know, if you need those, call in, talk to the guys, and we should be able to ship those right away. I also know that when it comes to Curry axles, we've finally fulfilled all of our orders, and we actually have, I think, 8 in stock now. So we could deliver axles quite quickly as well. So if you're interested in those, call on in, and there's no need to wait for that stuff either. So. All right, and I know we've always got R1 brakes in stock.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's always good. Yeah, just
Yeah.
to always replenish that inventory, making sure that, you know, customers need something, you know, we can make sure we can accommodate
Ready to go.
that. Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah. So, all right. With all that said, thank you for coming out and
Thank you for having
talking
me.
to everybody. Yeah. And thanks everybody. We will see you next Wednesday.